Hello and welcome to the latest issue of Geeky Brummie. Joining me today, Mr. Bloomfield.
Hello, Ryan.
Mr. Leigh Price.
Hello.
And of course, as always, I'm your host, Mr. Ryan Parish. Today we're going to be talking all about the Twitter furore that's going on with a certain billionaire treating it as his own personal fiefdom. We'll be chatting all about the fourth, so far, live-action Star Wars series, Andor, and our own personal what we've been up to on the Geeky Brummie team. For now, see you shortly. So, there's been a social media storm the last few weeks, if you haven't noticed, or if you avoid social media in all forms. One of the big three, or is it four now? Is it three? We'll say three. Yeah. Tumblr doesn't really count. So we got the Metaverse with Facebook and Instagram, and then on the other side there is Twitter, which was a public company up until very recently. After its inception back in 2006 with Jack Dorsey, Noah Glass, Biz Stone and Evan Williams. But now a certain billionaire who acts like a petulant child has bought it for a very meaty number and is now stuck with it, doesn't know what to do with it, and is kind of imploding it. And is taking it private, so no shareholders to interfere anymore. So what do we think?
So I think, based on everything we've seen, we can come to one conclusion. Rich people are not smarter than the rest of us. Because just everything that Elon Musk has been doing has been so astoundingly stupid, so astoundingly egotistical, that it's just like, mate, the only reason you're rich is because your parents use slave labor to own emerald mines. So...
Allegedly.
No, it's true.
Yes. So it's kind of somebody who kind of won the game of life from birth, thinking he's actually worked hard towards it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, this is the problem with all these kind of self-made billionaires. I mean, the old story was that Musk was a self-made billionaire and he self-made PayPal, but he didn't make PayPal at all. It was already an extant company before he joined it, and he was X.com. He just got very lucky to sell it when he did. And now Tesla is a car company which has had a lot of controversies on its way, and SpaceX is basically co-sponsored by the US government because they just keep throwing money at it, so he's not actually ever been profitable itself. And then we won't even discuss Starlink. It's not really a proper ISP. But yes, Twitter is the latest one. And if he's a CEO of 5 separate companies, surely that means he's not CEOing very well.
Yeah, pretty much. It also, again, proves that the position of CEO is one that functionally does nothing.
Yeah.
But it costs the company 600 times more.
Yes. So it's pretty much sacked the entire board.
They're the real business geniuses in this. Let's be real
yes. Here. They took their money and ran.
Yeah,
very
exactly.
Fast. Very, very fast.
They took their share of the 44 billion and it was just like, yep, we're out. We're going to do our own thing now.
Yeah. So he fired 3 top executives. He's laid off over 7,500 staff.
I think I had something like 80% of the company's gone.
Yeah. Then he basically sent. So he then said there's no working from home policy anymore. Then reversed that.
Yep.
And then closed the offices over the weekend and only invited the engineers in because apparently they're the only people who do anything, according to him. Got them to print off their code for the last 6 months and then fired the people with the least amount of code, which is actually all the people who do the optimization and the groundwork. Cancelled all the microservices, which broke 2-factor authentication on the app. So people who used 2-factor authentication to log in couldn't log in to Twitter anymore and locked their accounts. Twitter Blue, which was already been backpedaled once, which was iOS devices only, which very weird way of restricting your audience there, and then kind of defeat the entire purpose of Twitter verification, which has been around for around about a decade, I think, on that. The whole blue check mark.
Like that. And also, like...
And then introduced the grey check mark, which now just says official underneath
it. The thing about that, though, is I believe verification was introduced because there were threats of lawsuits against Twitter because of impersonators on the platform. Mm-hmm. So it was Twitter's solution back in the day of like, we can verify that this is the real person, and that kind of protected them from lawsuits because it's a system in place. Now here's Elon Musk going like, no, you can just buy it for $8, which immediately people took advantage of that with all the impersonators that appeared and paid $8 to have the verification tick, and therefore proving the point that it's there for a reason. You can't just pay for it.
Yeah. And then I think on top of that, the head of Twitter, Francis, quit, and he's basically said there is no hope of recovery now for the business. So it's kind of, it might already be finished by the time we edit the show and get it out. But I just don't understand how you can take what is probably one of the most trusted social media platforms as it was at the time and ruin it in the space of 2 months to where everybody's now jumping ship. So there's two main alternatives which are in the world at the moment. Mastodon, which we've tried, and Hive, which you've also tried, Leigh. I think Mastodon seems to be the one where most of the techie people are going to, mainly because you need a PhD in how to set up and follow accounts on there. And then Hive is the more kind of Instagrammer-friendly style one, I believe.
There's also a third one, which is co-host, but like my experience with it is it's just dead on arrival. Like, I signed up to it, and at the time of recording this, bearing in mind that I probably signed up to it maybe 5 days ago, I still can't post anything. Because the account has to be activated, and it's a manual process. And yes, there's a lot of people who've signed up for it, but like the problem is because no one can post, it feels so dead. It's also just got a really weird system where like the whole search function, you just can't find anyone.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're trying to be like, oh, but we respect your privacy and we can, we're sort of locking things up. But the problem with that is that no one can see each other. So everything's so private that it's...
Well, that was the thing. I mean, Twitter started off ostensibly as a micro-blogging service back in the day. So it was just a quick way to make a status update, and it was a public forum. It kind of filled that gap between Tumblr and kind of messaging your friends. Yep. So if you think about back in the day in 2006, 2007 when it first launched, Facebook was still a pretty young service, and it actually asked you to put "is" in your status update, if I remember. So it would be like, Ryan Parish is, Leigh Price is, Keith Bloomfield is, and then you'd write your status after it. Yep. Whereas Twitter was basically like, here are public text messages.
Yeah.
And then MySpace was still kicking around back in the day. Oh, for the days of Tom. Tom, our friend.
I've seen so many people begging for Tom to come back and save us all.
It's insanity how much that's grown in the social media world since, you got to think, mid-2000s. So over this course of 1.5 decades, the entire world has pivoted to social media being the main sites. And now we got to this over-bloated, overextended, overvalued margin where like Meta is worth more than quite a lot of actual businesses who do things.
Speaking of billionaires who don't know what they're doing and are wasting loads of money, let's talk about the Metaverse.
So the Metaverse. So Zuck is retiring next year, I believe, is the official phrase now. Because I think he still owns over 50% of Meta, which was Facebook back in the day. So
I call it Facebook. I'm refusing to call it Meta.
Yeah. So the problem is, however much people protest, if Zuck wants it done, it's going to be done. I mean, he needs somewhere to feast on the living.
What I don't understand about the Metaverse is that he spent billions, just absurd amounts of money on it. And then you look at it, and it looks worse than Second Life.
But you've got legs now.
You do have legs.
You have VR legs.
You finally have legs. I mean, VR chat has already had legs for a while, but
Yeah. I mean, if you think back to when he purchased Oculus back in the day.
Oculus.
Yeah, which was pretty much the only VR headset in town at one point. You had Oculus or Valve Index. And now it's kind of like turned into more of a gimmick rather than a thing. And I think he keeps trying to think of, virtualized offices, everybody works from home. Instead of working you can now work in a VR headset. It felt very much don't worry, darling.
Well, the whole thing behind it is just like, I don't understand who it's for, because like no one wants to. The whole point of working at home is that you're at home in your space, away from everyone else. Why would you put on a VR headset to be in the office.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of working from home.
Have you ever read a book called Snow Crash?
No.
It's a very, very old cyberpunk book.
I've heard of it, but yeah.
And basically, there is kind of the metaverse is in there, which is you upload your digital avatar, and then you can like buy property in there. You can own a nightclub. You can do.
I have read Ready Player One.
Kind of cribbed quite a lot from Snow Crash.
Yeah.
But it feels like Mark Zuckerberg's read Snow Crash and went, I want this.
No, I feel like he read Ready Player One and went, I want this.
I think he's read Snow Crash and not realised it's dystopian fiction, not utopian fiction. I mean, even Ready Player One is pretty damn dystopian if you think about it.
But it's got more 80s nostalgia in it.
Yeah, true. But he's a lizard from far past, so he wouldn't have lived for the 80s.
Yeah. But no, like the whole like Twitter thing. I mean, in terms of alternatives, like you said, Mastodon is a mess.
Yeah. I think my favourite thing which you pointed me to was this thread of it's really easy to sign up for Mastodon and find all your followers, followed by a 24 tweet thread on how to do it.
Yeah, so basically my experience of setting up stuff on Mastodon was I went onto the website and it's like, here's a list of servers. Like, okay, which one lets me do the thing? So I just clicked one at random, set up an account. That surprisingly was easy. And then it was like, okay, now I'm going to find people to follow. Couldn't find anyone when I searched for stuff, even though like I'd seen on Twitter that they'd set up Mastodon, but because they were on different servers, that like.
Yeah, I've downloaded the app on my phone, which is Android. I don't know if the iOS app is any better, but you put in like the tag of somebody and it just comes back with meh.
Yeah, and then so I had to find them either by Googling them or by like going off links that people have posted on Twitter. Yeah. And I was like, okay, there's a big follow button, just click it. You're going to need to go back to your server, copy their name into the search bar, and then follow them from there. I'm like, this is stupid. I hate this.
I think they were just not expecting the amount of traffic they've had. And I think it was a very kind of, it's very tech. And it was kind of like, yay, decentralized social networking, take the power away from big bad corporations.
What I'm discovering between Mastodon and crypto is that nothing should ever be decentralized. Because, like, we've got, great, a decentralized social network. No one owns anything, but everyone's in these little silos that don't talk to each other, and that's not really how a social network should be functioning. So,
I beg to differ. The internet itself is a decentralized platform if you think about it. So there is some massive benefits to decentralization. Again, so Twitter is the perfect example because it's a centralized social network. Somebody with ludicrous amounts of money has come in and bought it and turned it into its own personal fiefdom and reactivated Donald Trump and Kanye West, two of the most...
I think it's more just in the sense of like, we're seeing a lot of this sort of like, oh, it's decentralized, and then you see it in practice and you're just like, this doesn't work. But... or admittedly, it's for reasons beyond just...
It feels very Usenet going back in the day. And maybe GeoCities, when you had like your little GeoCities globs.
I think like a more modern equivalent to what Mastodon's probably doing is kind of Discord. Kind of the similar thing. But again, I have the same problem with Discord, which is that like, in order to find communities, you need to find specific communities. There isn't like just a general place to find stuff. And I think that's the problem with it.
And I think there's a kind of tipping point with Discord where it needs to have at least a couple of hundred users on a server for it to be active enough that it's worth sticking around for. Yeah. If it's like 10 to 20 people, you'll really struggle to like get that kind of repeat activity going.
Yeah. Meanwhile, my experience with Hive is the app is terrible, but as a social network, it's pretty good. Because what I've found on there is that basically it's just the entirety of games media and games dev Twitter has just descended on Hive, and now I'm just in that bubble and there's nothing else, and it's really nice because it's like Twitter without the worst bits. Like there's no politics, there's no here's Donald Trump doing something, here's Kanye West doing something, there's no like anti-trans thing trending every single day. There's none of that. It's just like a bunch of game devs and writers just hanging out.
You mentioned, Keith, a lot of comic book Twitter has migrated over.
Yeah, basically all of comics Twitter went to Hive. Purely because for exactly the same reasons that people had either had Mastodon accounts for years and done nothing with them because it was pointless, or have joined Hive because it just seems so much easier than any other way. Most people have just transferred their usernames across. I've seen some people who have been using a cross poster to just take their Twitter feed and post it to Mastodon. I haven't seen that happening for Hive yet. But it's the whole rigmarole of building an audience again. Yeah. So it's kind of like Hive's nice because it's chronological, which is basically if anybody had bought Twitter, that's still all they should have done is gone. Everything's super cool, but we're just going to make it chronological.
Two things: edit button and confirmed when it was edited, and turn off the damn algorithms which pushes content. That's all it wanted to be.
Which is what Hive does. It actually has an edit button as well.
Yeah. so it's already better than Twitter.
Although, just to indicate, like, I've opened my phone up now. We'll see how long it takes to load.
It takes a while. But saying that, at the moment, Hive is basically run by 2 people.
Yeah. Which is why I can forgive it.
They're kind of running around putting out fires left, right, and centre right now.
And one of the things that I do like as well, even though the functionality isn't there on Android yet, which is it basically brings back MySpace. Because you can put.
Do you have auto playing music and GIFs?
You can put a song on your profile. I don't think I think you can turn off whether it auto plays or not. But like,
how many covers of Evanescence are we gonna hear?
But also like me, you use an Android, so you won't hear anything anyway because the functionality simply doesn't work on Android yet.
I mean, considering it started June 2019, they've significantly spooled up to get to the stage of, and it's probably like you can probably imagine the seed investors there going, "Oh, thanks Elon for the gift of so much traffic."
And I mean, like right now, like seeing how many people the mass exodus that's happened this past week, I can understand why. Like it's falling apart.
I love the tweets that Elon keeps popping out. I was like, "Oh, it's the most active Twitter's ever been." And it's like, yes, that's because everybody's grabbing what they can and leaving.
Yeah,
it's like when Rome was on fire.
Yeah, well,
people are grabbing their goods and escaping.
It's like when Rome was on fire and everyone wanted to watch it burn. That's what's happening. We're watching it fall because it's kind of weirdly entertaining.
Yeah, and it's kind of you mentioned about social groups and everything. It's kind of reverted back to that if you think about it, because we've got Truth Social, which I will never touch or go near in my entire life. But they've kind of migrated their space because my libs, my freedoms, can't keep me free speech away. And then you've got Hive and Mastodon, which is kind of the techie people have gone one place, the creatives have gone to another space. So it's kind of social media as a homogenous whole is breaking up.
I mean, to be fair, I kind of like that's kind of how it is, because right now Hive is just a bunch of creative people talking about creative stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just a really chill, cool place when it isn't just lagging the hell out. But
I mean, I think we need to try Hive. I mean, we still have our Twitter account now. Quite annoyingly, our largest followers on social media. Yeah. Go and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Or on the Geeky Brummie website.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem everybody's going to have is just rebuilding that audience, because most of the time on Hive, I haven't posted anything yet. All I'm doing is, as I find somebody I know, looking at who's following them and their followers, and then refollowing them, and then so it's going to take a while to rebuild that. Yeah. And I kind of don't dig the kind of you can write as much as you want stuff as well, because the beauty of Twitter was it was succinct in a sense of it was like you had a very limited amount of space, so you had to say what you wanted quite succinctly. And although threads exist and you can go down there, if you're not captured by the first one, you're not going to go down the rest. So sometimes when you're scrolling through Hive and you go, okay, this is a big long post and I'm probably not going to read it all, but there's a video, I'm going to look at it, or there's the picture of a piece of work or whatever.
As someone who constantly writes Twitter threads, I'm loving the lack of
the no limit.
Here is my essay.
My introduction post is already pretty long.
Although I do like the idea
reasonable, but it's not like
I do like the idea of edit button to get rid of that annoying typo that you find out like 2 hours later and you go, especially on scheduled posts. But I think once places like Ifit and that catch up and you can cross post to multiple platforms. So I think that's the thing now is you've got that splintering is that you might have some audience on one, some audience on another. So it's kind of like, okay, either we've got to tailor make everything for one platform, and then we use Hero Post to try and get things around, because it's a time intensive process.
There's a bit of a suck it and see which one out of the two competitors is going to survive the most.
Yeah,
because I can imagine Mastodon is kind of, because it's decentralized and it's kind of server hosting is on you basically. It's you choose which world you want. Some are free, some ask for donations, some ask for like $1 a month on a kind of Patreon or Ko-fi style. And Hive's probably just more seed investment, which means then there's always going to be that kind of corporation looming in the background behind it. So is it just going to turn itself into Twitter 2.0?
I think it will turn itself into Twitter 2.0, and that's because the ease for the general audience that is Twitter au fait at the moment is it's such an easier jump going to Hive than it is going to Mastodon.
Yeah,
because I still can't get my head around Discord, and Mastodon is basically Discord for dummies, and I still can't understand.
No. Discord is the Mastodon for dummies. Like I can figure out Discord.
I fully appreciate the intent behind Mastodon, which means no gods, no kings, which is the best thing about it. But at the same time,
I think the one thing it needs that would improve it significantly is just some sort of hub that everything links up to.
Yeah,
that would get rid of most of my issues of like, because this person's on this server, this person's on this server, this person's on this server, but I want to follow all of these people.
Yeah.
And it's such a pain to do that.
Yeah.
But if everything kind of just linked up to like one hub, and it's just something, and it's literally just something that just activates the, like different things. I don't know. I'm not a coder, so I don't know. But like,
I think the issue is because your handle isn't just like at Geeky Brummie, it's Geeky Brummie at Mastodon.world, which is the server we're on.
Yeah.
So you're going to become in a handle issue because you're going to have, because there's all these different servers, and those handles are probably going to be repeated across some of them. I'm assuming there's already going to be people like, I'm called Adam, so
I mean, I think
Adam at this.
I think having the server thing is fine, but like all I'm saying is that if I go to someone's profile, I just want to be able to press follow.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like I don't need to copy their thing into my search bar on a separate tab in order to follow them.
To be fair to the developers, I don't think they was expecting this amount of traffic in this very short space of time.
Yeah.
I think it's been kind of the implosion of Twitter has been staggering from how fast has it fallen down, and it shows how weak these tech companies are to resilience.
It's like a really bad episode of The Apprentice.
Yeah,
it's kind of do this social media thing. It's like, what? We don't know what we're doing.
Well, Alan Sugar isn't nice, but you could probably run a slightly better version of it. Yeah, everybody would have been issued with an Amstrad email to tweet on.
I was about to say,
he's got a warehouse full
of be forced to run off Amstrad.
Yeah, he's got a warehouse full of those.
Yeah. I mean, that would have been the perfect tweeting device back in the day.
Yeah.
Got your phone, you got your keyboard, you can do your tweet on your thing.
Dial up. Yeah, that's good.
Nice ASCII GIF going along in the background.
Yeah. But I mean, part of me thinks that Elon's doing this completely deliberately as well, because he kind of made the offer, then realised he didn't want to do it, then got forced into it, and has just gone, well, I've got so much money, I can afford to waste it.
Well, at the day of recording, he's apparently lost over $100 billion over the last 2 days from Tesla price just tanking.
And this is before all the lawsuits hit him.
Yeah. And there was a recall over 100,000 Teslas in the US, I believe, because there's an issue with the rear brake lights or something.
Oh, there's an issue with yet another part of a Tesla.
Are we shocked?
I mean, the thing about Tesla as well is interesting because, like, I mean, that took off in a big way because it was kind of like the first big electric car company.
It was valued more than VW, Toyota, and Porsche, and a few other companies combined, which is just insanity.
And I think, obviously there is a push towards electric vehicles, and that is important. And so obviously, but I think what they're facing, and Elon Musk refuses to accept this, is the fact that like older car companies are now also releasing good electric vehicles that are actually better than Teslas and cheaper.
And not made to like fall apart after 100 days.
They don't set on fire. You can unlock the door when there's an emergency.
Yeah.
Things like this, very basic safety features.
They promised an AI autopilot for a decade, which hasn't been delivered.
Oh no, you mean the AI autopilot that actively targets children?
Yeah, that one.
Because I think I read somewhere as well as like Teslas have an issue with like the windows like sealing up, and it's a problem that the Audi TT also had in 1998, and Audi fixed that. It's like, well, you could just do what they did 20 years ago.
The problem is, Tesla was not founded by Elon Musk, so
Yeah,
get that thought right at your head, because it was actually founded by people who worked in the car industry.
Yep.
But they're no longer a car industry. They're no longer a car maker. They're a tech company pretending to be a car maker, and that's the problem. So look at the ridiculousness of the Cybertruck, and still non-delivered in the US. I think.
You mean the low poly model from a PS1 game?
Yes, the one with unbreakable windows, which had a broken window on the display model. It's all built on rampant speculation, and it's all built on hoping that the company that you backed in the investment circle is going to be the one that survives. So Rivian, again, another small electric car maker, again, is massively overblown in value because companies are just speculating like these ones are going to be the ones that survive. I mean, Polestar seemed to be doing quite well, considering that was a Volvo spin-off that it's now its own company. There's a few of those on the road. You'll have seen them. They've got the little North Star logo.
But I think the thing with the electric cars is that there's a finite window for that because we've got to move to electric vehicles in a certain amount of time.
By 2030,
yeah,
I think is the last IC internal combustion engine ICE car.
They've got to nail this electric car thing down. And I think the other thing is that once the company starts building them that aren't bigger, then we're on to a winner there. I think the idea of bigger cars, even if they're electric, it makes no sense, particularly in the UK, which isn't big. It's all right in America to have a car that's the size of your house to drive around, but it's no use in the UK.
All right. Hot topic. Electric cars are a stopgap.
Between
petrol and hydrogen-powered vehicles.
Yeah, but they won't make the hydrogen. There already is hydrogen-powered vehicles.
Yes,
that could make
like four
but nobody wants to make them because they would make no money from it.
Yeah,
but it's going to be at some point because electric cars do not work properly in the long term because they're like this.
Yeah,
they're a disposable asset.
I think you're right, but that will be after the eugenics war and after the Phoenix has launched into space and the Vulcans have discovered us as a warp-capable planet, and we enter the Star Trek utopian age.
But if you think about all the infrastructure which goes into delivering petrol in the UK now, and they're not all going to become electric rapid charging stations.
No.
It makes more sense if you can change that infrastructure to hydrogen storage.
Yeah.
Then instantly you've already got that infrastructure built in place. It's better, longer lasting, less issues, no pollutants. You can still have some electric vehicles. You can have a hydrogen electric hybrid, but it's much cleaner and better for the environment as well at the same time.
I still think we should go down the Futurama route of the kind of like tubes that you can get sucked through.
Pneumatic tubes.
Yeah, that was the one for me.
But we all end up in suicide booths.
Oops,
you missed your mortgage payment this month. Yeah, I mean, we've gone quite far off the topic of Twitter.
Yeah, but I think it's the same kind of thing. It's like you've got this splintering happening at the moment, which is going to be weird for lots of people to navigate. It's like, where do I go? Why do I post? And I think a lot of people are going to do what I'm looking at and going, okay, I'm still going to just post to Twitter, but I'm going to figure out some way of sending it to all these other places. Yeah. And then I need something like a TweetDeck equivalent, which aggregates all of my feeds in one place.
Yeah.
So I can just skip between rather than having to load up loads of different apps. Yeah. So there's going to be that period of, okay, where are we all going to end up?
And I think it's kind of socioeconomic to a certain extent as well. And again, it might sound weird, but I'll take you with me on this journey. Nowadays, people are a lot more intelligent through the access to information that they have nowadays, especially the younger people. They know pretty much that capitalism is kind of a false promise, and we were kind of at the end of this kind of infinite growth cycle because we know it doesn't work anymore, and it's all about sustainability, ESR, and actually like caring about the world. and we still have this death grip of this boomer generation, which I feel like Elon's a kind of a member of that generation, even though he's supposedly Gen X, but he's got that boomer mindset of, oh, it's infinite growth and we don't care and we'll just earn wealth. That's all we care about. And I think the rest of the world's moving on from that quite a lot. I hope that the generations that are our generation, the generations that follow us, are a bit more, well, having a nice life isn't dependent on being the wealthiest person in the world anymore. It's about why you interact with people. And I think that's what's coming through in social media now. Kind of Facebook is already fading out, and I can't see it lasting another decade or two because the youth aren't on there anymore. It's kind of, they've moved to TikTok or those kind of ways of communicating with each other, and nobody's actively going onto, I need to post a Facebook status now.
Facebook's an interesting one because it has really just become like the place where your parents believe conspiracy theories, and that's pretty much all it is at this point.
Or you can go on and see your nan's last recent pictures or something like that of, they sent you a message, and that's all you'll see. Or they'll just use Messenger because that's kind of divorced itself from Facebook as well, so you don't really need that anymore. Instagram is still the place for pretty pictures.
And that's terrible too.
And OnlyFans accounts. Seems to be the only things that are on Instagram anymore.
The other big platform that I've seen a lot of people migrate to in terms of creatives really just wanting to it's Substack.
Substack, yes.
Which is a way of people just getting kind of like newsletters. Here's what I'm doing. That's what it is. It's not an engagement type of platform.
That's kind of why I didn't bother with it, because it's just Medium. That's all it is. It's just Medium again.
It's not really a social media. It's more of a, here is my work. Here is my portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a few kind of writers and artists who I'm subbed to their thing. Not the paid one, because that gets a bit ridiculous when you start paying for extra content. But just to kind of go, just so you know what books people are working on or what projects they've got coming up, so you can kind of do that. And the engagement thing, and I think I've in the past couple of years, definitely, I've fallen out of love with social media and just gone, I'll doom scroll like everybody does, but I've found my engagement becoming less and less and less as a person. Yeah, as part of Geeky Brummie, that's been great, and I quite like that and do that. But as an individual, I get lost in the storm of what everybody else that's kind of out there.
We've not even discussed the others. So there's Patreon, which a lot of creators have moved to now because it's a way of getting a fixed income through that and sharing a little bit more special with that. There's Reddit. So there's all the subreddits. Again, that's kind of a fractured social media of there is the main feed.
I see Reddit more as like a collection of message boards than a social media site. So that's certainly how I use it, because that's pretty much how it's structured.
It's kind of the Dig replacement. If you remember Dig back in the day? Do you dig it, Key?
No, because I still don't understand Reddit either. It's like I only ever end up on Reddit when I've Googled something and there's a Reddit. And I go and there's
usually
some questions. It's like, okay, that's it.
But there's all these other social media platforms out there as well. There's other ways of engaging with your audience. And I think Elon probably thought people wouldn't leave Twitter because it's one of the big three, but
I think also he thought that like, everyone's going to worship me because I'm Elon Musk. There's an element of that too. Let's be real.
But all that 15% of bots on Twitter, they probably were Elon stans.
Yeah.
That's the problem. He's just left with the bots that he's like,
I think, what was the comment I saw that was like, he thought he interpreted all of the criticism against him as being bots and all the people praising him to be real people, when in fact it's the other way around.
So I think there was a specific example where Elon Musk tweeted out he was turning off the microservices, and it was kind of like, this is what's causing all the lag in the developing world. And a Twitter developer went, I've worked in this actual area for 5 years. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah. And it was followed up by one of Elon's little fanboys tagging Elon into the conversation to get him fired, basically. And it's like, Elon, look at this person, disagree with you. And it's like, well, he's fired now.
Yeah,
it's like he's acting like a petulant man.
There's two things that I found absolutely pathetic in that. First of all, just Elon Musk like firing someone without actually telling him. Yeah, because he apparently fired him and then just switched off all his access. Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, that's a potential lawsuit because it's California. When where labor laws actually do exist.
Yeah.
One of the few places in America where they do exist.
The Europe of the United States is the way I describe California.
And then you've got just this pathetic little toad who thinks that if he sucks up to Elon Musk enough, he'll be a billionaire too one day. And it's just like, no, he's going to tread on you like every billionaire treads on everybody else.
Yeah. It's this falsehood of the American dream. It's like Jeff Bezos got a pretty much unlimited check to start off Amazon from his basement, from his parents' garage. Bill Gates, his mom worked with IBM at the time and got him through the door in the first place. His dad was a contract lawyer, I think, so wrote the contract with IBM and basically screwed IBM over to the state of DOS was a brilliant one. So it's kind of, they're not coming from poverty, they're not this American dream, and it's this whole issue of capitalism sells that, oh, anybody can make it. And it's like, it might have been right in the 30s and 40s. It ain't right anymore. There's no way that you can climb that ladder unless you're going to have to push some people down.
But then at least Bill Gates can be sitting there going, I'm not them. It's like, I'm not as bad as they are. It's like,
he's infecting the world with his terrible vaccines, Keith. That's what he's up to now.
There's also just the meme of like, you know, you see all these people who have like gone on to great successes and they're rich at the age of 16 or something like this. And then it's like, all right, where's the sentence that says they got a small loan from their parents?
Yes.
Like,
say the line, Bart.
Yeah.
Say the line. It's usually, my mum gave me a house, or my mum paid for my rent, so I didn't have to worry about it. If you got a safety net, you are not a self-made person. It was the most egregious thing ever when they wrote some article about Kylie Jenner was the first self-made.
Yeah, like that was absurd because it's like that one was so blatantly like, no, she isn't. We've seen the reality TV show that her family is in. Like,
and she wasn't a billionaire anyway because her company was horribly overvalued. And they changed that pretty quickly.
But it's, that one just got me because it's like, well, they were already one of the most famous families in the world.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why. I'm sure there is some actual reason down the line, but like, we know who they are. We know who Kylie Jenner is, and we know that she didn't come from nothing.
I mean, I've had 3 separate examples where Brooklyn Beckham has been forced into my life through no kind of will of my own. One which is he's making a cocktail, and it's like, well, that's just a standard cocktail. You haven't made anything special. Then there was an article about his star sign apparently meant that's why he's not good at football. I'm just like, why is this person existing on my timeline?
I think there's a bit of research I could do there with that. Star signs, are you good at football or not? I think.
Well, that's all you need to do is just get like every Premier League footballer and then check their star signs.
Just go and
you'd probably find all of them, I would imagine.
You'd probably find they sit into 12 quite neat categories apart from a couple of spikes.
Yeah, I'm a Capricorn, which means I'm a winger. I'm a Sagittarius, which means I'm a fullback.
But it's this whole thing about being famous just because who you are, and that's Elon Musk is a perfect example.
It's being famous for being famous. That's the thing that people have got.
Or, you know, your parents exploiting people with emerald mines.
Yeah.
But what benefit has he brought to the world?
Shot that car into space. That was valuable, I hear.
Littering space. What benefit? Because it's actually SpaceX has taken, and Blue Origin has taken money away from NASA because the government are giving them the money to go launch satellites.
I mean, if they were missing a sink at Twitter HQ, then he did a good thing by bringing one of those in. I don't know if he plumbed it in, but
he underpaid some labourer to do that.
Or he did the Donald Trump thing of just don't pay for them and take them away.
Yeah.
But yeah, even if Donald Trump doesn't come back to your terrible platform, you know you've done something wrong.
Well, because he's got his own one now, and he can be the God King of that one instead.
Because nobody wants to play ball with them anymore. Yeah. It's just pure insanity, and it's kind of a perfect example of why just because people are wealthy doesn't mean they're smart. And this is, I think, any economics class is going to go into the future as, look at this, boys. There's going to be many, many PhDs and many studies written on this, on what impact this has on our world. Because if some event was happening and you wanted to find out very quickly what it was, you jump on Twitter. And it was hyper-local to the state of, there's really a lot of traffic on this road. There's some accident that happened. Blah, 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 blah. Have a quick look, see if anybody's tweeting it out. There's fire up the road, I know that. To kind of when that explosion happened in Lebanon a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And that was all over Twitter for about a week. But it really helped the investigators because they could piece together all the Twitter information of all the videos that had been recorded to work out size and scope of the blast and how it occurred.
And on a less serious note, E3.
Yeah.
Twitter during E3 is one of the greatest things. It's just everyone's tweeting out their reactions, just snarky comments everywhere.
I thought that was the Game Awards.
There's that too. It's every big event like this. Nintendo Directs get it as well. It's the same thing.
Even I'm a celebrity and stuff like that. There's always a hashtag underneath because that's how you'd engage.
Yeah. I mean,
Greg Wallace and MasterChef.
Yeah, I was going to say your whole MasterChef thing.
He's moving to Birmingham now, so I can't do it anymore in case he does find me. He's really bulked out and gymmed up. I'm worried.
It's fine. We could take
That's
him.
why they moved to Birmingham, is just so he can hunt me down.
We could take him. If you're out there, Greg Wallace. Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of that. Oh, Bake Off was a big example of that. When Bake Off was on, it's kind of Twitter would go mad for that hour it was on TV. That's just all going to evaporate.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine Hive Social is going to be the place that you go and talk about Bake Off anymore.
We might still get the E3 reactions though, because most of Game Dev Twitter is on there.
I think it's that thing. It's like the audience on each platform will bring its own thing. So at the moment, it's gamers and comics people. So things like E3 or things like Thought Bubble or San Diego, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
The same thing's going to exist. What it's going to be is it's not going to be everything.
There'll be a glacial shift, I think.
Yeah.
As people wean themselves off Twitter and move to something else. But there's some people who've made their entire lives on Twitter as well, which is going to be really kind of weird for them.
I think there'll be quite a few celebrities out there that will go from like 12 million followers to 23 or something. It'll be like, what's happened?
So apparently Elon Musk was taking the Michael out of Trent Reznor from 9 Inch Nails.
Trent 9 Inch Nails Reznor.
Yeah, for leaving Twitter. Yeah. It's kind of, you'll see that exodus now because it's not a trusted platform anymore. If you can wipe off £15 billion off a pharmacy company by tweeting out "lol, insulin free now," and everybody just running away with that, then it's kind
of... That's the one good thing that Elon Musk has given the world, because we're now actually having a debate about medicine prices in the States.
One which has no patent against it and costs less than $10 to make it be free for people.
Yeah.
That one. That one.
That we may see a cultural shift, and that was because of Elon Musk. I don't think that's what he intended, though. So.
Inadvertent benefits of Elon Musk.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting kind of 12 months or so going forwards to see how eventually it all pans out and where everybody ends up, and whether somebody does go, I'm going to start MySpace again.
And Tom just emerges.
Just start my own social media. Blackjack.
With that, I mean, that could be the other thing. It's like literally every Tom, Dick, and Harry could start their own social media platform.
I think it's the perfect example.
We already did have a Tom.
Yeah, it's the perfect.
So Dick and Harry got to pull the finger out.
It's the perfect example of just you could have done nothing and it would have been fine, but it was ego over id. Sorry, it's id over ego, isn't it?
I can't remember which one's which.
Well,
and then there's the super ego.
He's basically got to his base instincts of, I'm going to mess with it because I can, because it's my new plaything. And it's kind of ruined quite a lot of social media.
That I didn't want, and I was forced into paying $44 billion for.
Yeah. All these marketing social media execs pulling out all their hair now because of kind of social media accounts do I set up?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Seth Rogen-based movie that will bound to come out in a couple of years' time. The Elon Musk story.
Who will play Elon Musk?
I saw someone suggest Kathy Bates.
Kathy Bates would.
I think if he had anything to do with it, it would be him.
Oh God, yes, he would do that. He'd probably
he wouldn't even know. It's like, are you making fun of me? No, it's fine.
Do you remember that Jacqueline Phoenix movie a few years ago, which was basically just him being a knob around Hollywood for a year, and they filmed it?
Yeah.
That would just be the real life documentary of Elon Musk walking around. I'm a billionaire. Well done, you.
Yeah, he could have left it alone.
Yeah,
you know, as I always find myself falling back on, time after time, the classic Ian Malcolm. Just because you could doesn't mean you should. It's a very, very good doctrine to live by.
tweets will find a way.
On Hive.
So our 4th Star Wars live-action series has landed with us. It's been on for quite a while now, so we're quite getting around to speaking about this one, which is Andor. So we've had Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan. That was the one you was missing.
I was like 4. I can't think of what the other one is. Yeah, but it's Obi-Wan.
So Andor is it's a semi-prequel to Rogue One, which was the Tony Gilroy film, which came out a few years ago, which...
Gareth Edwards. Say Gareth Edwards first, then Tony Gilroy.
So Andor is the prequel to Rogue One, which came out and came from Gareth Edwards and Tony Gilroy. And that was kind of the most beloved of the Disney era of Star Wars movies, critically.
Yeah, by a long way. Because it was the most Star Wars.
So basically it's kind of a prequel to that, which, spoilers, Andor dies in, because everybody dies in that.
Yeah,
it's kind of in the film, to be honest, Keith. It's kind of the main plot.
It's kind of, if you know Star Wars, you know what happens to everybody. Yes. Yeah,
I'll put a big spoilers warning just before that. But yes, so this is kind of a prequel during the 5 years that leads up to the events of Rogue One. So this current series is looking at a very specific time, and I think what they've said is the next couple of series are going to be more separate episodic kind of moments in time and bits rather than having a continuous story, which is what season 1 is. So Tony Gilroy is doing, I think he's showrunner on this one. Kind of
I think he's written quite
a few of them. Diego Luna is back, of course, as Cassian Andor. We have one of the Skarsgårds, this one's Stellan, who's doing quite a lot of heavy work. Kyle Soller is in it quite a lot as a kind of character we've not seen before.
Yeah, kind of. Not quite the Empire. He's a member of a peacekeeping police force on one of the planets we start off on.
Yeah, and we've got Genevieve O'Reilly, who's returning as Mon Mothma, who was in. She was in Rogue One as well. I think she's been in a few other bits as well. And Faye Marseille, who you might know from Game of Thrones. She was the waif.
Don't know. Don't watch Game of
Thrones. I love how neither of us have watched Game of Thrones.
Faye Marseille's in it quite a lot, and she's kind of a British character actress, so but nice to see her pop around. There's been quite a few good characters in it, and Keith, you're about 6 episodes in, so I'm a little bit ahead.
I'm quite far behind the curve, because I'm kind of drip feeding it a little bit. It did go out on a weekly schedule.
Yes.
And I kind of started watching it, and it's like, okay, this is slow. This is meandering. This is quite nice. And I just kind of like taking my time and having to think about each episode as it goes past, because they kind of seem to be working in 3-episode arcs.
Yeah.
So you've got, if the first three episodes kind of introduce Andor and his situation and what's happening to him, then you get the next one, which is kind of a heist-based scenario, which I've just got to the end to. But it's really it makes Star Wars again.
Yeah.
You know, the Empire seemed to be insidious, and it really works in our current political climate in terms of how, you know, things happen and you don't realize that it's happening until it's too late.
Yeah.
And how then people will like react, and you can understand how rebellions and organizations form in order to beat being, you know, oppressed peoples, which is what you're getting quite a lot of, is, you know, the downtroddenness of a lot of the people that live under the jackboot of the Empire.
You know, my favourite bit about it is there's been no mention of Jedi or Mandalorians at all in this. It's been completely separated out. This is kind of, and the way they've done it, so they've not used the volume which all the other Star Wars series have used before, so lots of Unreal Engine in the background, fake backgrounds. This has kind of been very practical, and you can see that in the style, and it's great, and it's gritty, and it's got that kind of Star Wars feel to it, where everything is practical. But it's just great to have an actual storyline which feels like Disney's not messed with. It feels like this was kind of a very underrated series internally, and they've just let Tony do what he wants with it to a certain extent. It's kind of, we don't expect this to perform well, but we need to bulk out our Disney Plus schedule. So here you go, here's a budget, run along and do it.
Yeah, and I kind of like it as well because it's not it doesn't overtly rely on dialogue.
No.
In a sense, one of my favorite episodes, I think, was the end of the 3rd episode, which is basically just a montage as Cassian walks through a kind of shipbreaker's yard.
Yeah.
And there's a beautiful bit of music. And I went and downloaded the album as a result, going, I love this bit of music. This is great. It was just a mood piece. And I think that's what I've liked about Andor, is because for me, it's mood. It's all about mood.
Yeah.
Everything in it is just moody, and you're just kind of sucked into it. You're not getting a lot of action a lot of the time. A lot of it's kind of quite long and drawn out, but what you're getting is great scenes with great characters and great actors who are able to kind of give the gravitas that these characters need, and kind of just, they're not chewing scenery, they're just being great characters.
Yeah, and I think one of the themes that run throughout the entire show is kind of, you're not really heroes, you're just people who got lucky enough to survive and carry on through. You see that quite a lot, is people you expect to be hanging around for quite some time are just gone. And it's kind of, you're just in the right place at the right time, or in the right place at the wrong time sometimes for the people who don't make it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, rebellions aren't just founded on people with passion. I think it's taken all those different ways that people have got into it.
I haven't got to the end yet, but I think what it's doing is reinforcing that sense of Cassian at the end of Rogue One. Yeah. Kind of just going,
my time's run out.
Yeah. It's like, I've been lucky to get this far.
Yeah.
And I kind of get that sense of like, all the way through, he's just kind of like, okay. I can't think about what's just happened. I've got to move. I've got to keep moving forwards. That kind of sense of momentum of like, we've just got to keep going. Put one foot in front of the other and keep going. And I kind of like that resilience of a lot of the characters, that they're just kind of like, even when things don't go well, they kind of just go, we can't stop.
Yeah. And not spoilers in any way, but 90% of the time those decisions are taken out of his hands completely, and he just has to find a way to get around and survive. I mean, there's quite a lot of English character actors in it as well. So Ben Miles turns up, who's Patrick in Coupling, if you remember that sitcom back in the day. Forrest Whitaker's, of course, back as Saw Gerrera, but you're probably already aware that a certain person's turning up who's already been in Star Wars. Does a lot of CGI work.
Oh yes. Yeah, I know he's in it. I've seen it. I've seen his picture on various websites.
Yeah, so he's in it kind of quite a lot as well. So it's nice to see him turning up in it. But I would just like that this is going to sound really weird, it's grounded sci-fi. It's more, feels lived in the Star Wars universe, and you still get both. So you get both ends. You got the Coruscant, everything's shiny, everything's clean. This is the way the Empire wants it to run. And then you still get the whole outer rim, everything's scuffy, everything's dirty, everything's clapped together, everything's sold. And you get that feel as well with how oppressive the whole Star Wars universe is, especially with this is the height of the Empire. And it's kind of, there's a great line that Stellan Skarsgård said, the tighter they squeeze, the more people will slip through their grasp. And it's kind of, you're seeing that impact of the Empire trying to crush things, and it just working against them, not for them.
It's kind of nice as well that it's, again, like not hearing about Jedi, you don't hear about the Emperor as much. And it is just this overwhelming organization of the Empire that even, you can see how people given power exploit it and do bad things because they think they can get away with it. Yeah,
and it's great to see the ISB on screen as well, because they've always been a big part of the expanded universe. And kind of the only one who ever turns up in actual Star Wars is Wolf Yularen, who's actually in the first Star Wars film for a couple of seconds. And that's it. But it's kind of learning about the lore, about how they operate and the different sectors and how they work. And it's kind of nice to get some more kind of world building, which doesn't rely on Jedi or Sith or Mandalorians to a certain extent, because we've had a lot of Mandalorian content for quite a long while now.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense as well, I kind of feel it's a little bit more like the prequel trilogy, which the further I get away from the prequel trilogy, although I kind of liked it because I saw that with my kids who were my kind of ages when they saw that, so I kind of got the the bug for Star Wars again through that, and I kind of like. And there's a certain element of that prequel trilogy and the politics of it all, which kind of I think people got a little bit, too kind of down on George for it. But he was kind of trying to say, like, this is how how things happen. That it doesn't happen, like you say, it doesn't happen with big heroes and big villains. It's these people making decisions, and these decisions build and make a difference. And so the next thing you know, you're like, okay, why is my electric bill £4,000 a week, and I've got no food, and I have to go to the library to be warm, and all the rest. All these decisions that are being made that you just kind of think, oh, no, they know what they're doing. It's fine. And then suddenly you're like, okay, this isn't great.
Yeah, it's that whole feeling of helplessness and everything is outside of your control, which kind of they've developed really well. And I don't know if that's a reaction, because all good sci-fi and fantasy is usually analogous of the time it's made, and it's kind of more a reaction, and it's kind of a tale about how the world is at the time it's created. But I don't know, I think it is the best Star Warsy thing we've had probably since Rogue One, personally.
Yeah, I'd kind of agree. I've enjoyed the other series.
Yeah.
They've been fun and pulpy, but this one seems to be really the first. What Star Wars going? No, yeah, we can tell a very grounded story that will appeal to a lot of people.
I don't even think you have to be a Star Wars fan as such to be able to watch this. I think it works in its own little microcosm to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think because it's not as associated with everything else. I mean, there are certain things. Although I kind of like the way they made the sound of the TIE fighter flying overhead terrifying again. The idea of just one of these things whipping overhead was enough to like give you the chills, and think, oh my God, what's happening? So kind of it makes everything. It's kind of like making everything new and exciting again. But it's that whole mood thing. I'm just like, oh, this is, and the music is great. I love the music. I've downloaded both the soundtracks for the series. No, it's Nicholas Brittle, I think, is the name of the guy. I shall very quickly refer to my
Goran.
He does the
Wakanda Forever soundtrack.
Nicholas Brittle. I was right. Wow, I'm amazed with myself. Yeah, it's a top soundtrack, and there's this one. It's called the Past and Present Suite. Which is on the episodes 1 to 4 soundtrack. Great. Beautiful bit of music that just you can put on and just be like, if you're walking down the high street in Birmingham in the rain with the lights on around you, playing this bit of music, you can get the whole feel of being Cassian Andor walking through, diligently. Yeah, it's great.
Leigh, have we convinced you to dip your toe back into the Star Wars
universe?
It's
not Marvel. It's not superheroes. You'd be right.
I mean, the thing is, like, I've heard a lot of good things about it, and I feel like it is something that I might check out, but I've also felt the same way about The Mandalorian, and I still have not checked that out either. But I think what sort of sounds interesting to me about it is how, like you said, it's so kind of divorced from, like, a lot of the established Star Wars characters and places and stuff. Obviously, there's things in there, but it's not... And I think we need to have more Star Wars media like that, because it's a galaxy, but everything seems to be like it's a Skywalker, it's a Kenobi, and it's just like, we know who these people are, but isn't there like a galaxy out there with lots of other people and lots of other places in it? And I think it's kind of interesting that we've got something that does step outside the established stuff and does something different, because I feel like that's kind of the point of doing a TV show in a universe like that.
Yeah, it gives you a chance to do anything you want for that TV show to a certain extent. And we've had some of that with Star Wars Visions and Tales of the Jedi, but even then that just retreads constant old ground of, here's Qui-Gon Jinn as a Padawan storyline. Here's what's happened to Ahsoka since she disappeared at the end of Clone Wars before Rebels starts. And it's kind of, I know Dave Filoni and Ahsoka kind of go together as, if he's on, she's going to turn up at some point. But it's nice, as you said, to not have to rely on Jedi or Mandalorians or lightsabers or the kind of constant tropes of Star Wars popping in and out. And it's just nice to be refreshing with that.
Yeah, because I think, I can't remember which show it was, but like people going nuts over, Luke Skywalker's showing up. And all I could think was, again.
Yeah.
Does everything revolve around this guy?
I think, as you said, and that was probably one of the worst decisions Disney ever made, was kind of throwing away the entirety of the expanded universe, which is you had some really fantastic storylines and characters like Dr. Aphra and people like that who kind of can stand up on their own 2 feet and don't need to be so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that the comics have done.
Yeah,
in the post Disney world quite well is expand the world without a great use of the kind of core characters.
Yeah,
and I think this is what makes Andor work really well, is because the story of the rebellion isn't the story of Skywalkers or Jedi. They got nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
this is the story of how ordinary people, after being failed by the Jedi, who got themselves all murdered by the Emperor, basically abandoned the universe, and the people of Star Wars had to fight back against the Empire.
Yeah, the description I've seen is that it's more of just a political thriller that happens to be in the Star Wars universe.
Because until Kenobi and Luke get wrapped in, the rebels were kind of pretty much taking care of business. Really,
Mon Mothra's pretty much got the entire rebellion set up.
She's kind of taking care of business. Really, to be honest, Luke and Obi-Wan kind of get in the way a little bit.
They kind of gate crashed at the end.
Yeah.
But I think definitely it's to go back to the MCU. Sorry, Leigh.
Yeah.
I suppose the only close comparison I can think of how the Winter Soldier was more of a Manchurian Candidate movie, which got slipped into into the MCU. This feels like a really good political thriller you'd find on BBC One on Sunday evenings for 12 weeks. That's kind of found its way into the Star Wars universe by accident.
But it's that thing. It's like it's all of that, but also all Star Wars.
Yeah.
So it's really you can get a lot from it. I think you can get a lot from it if you're not a Star Wars fan, as this kind of really intriguing kind of political rebel story, and you can get a lot from it as it's just Star Wars. And I mean, I freely admit I'm just a big kid when it comes to Star Wars. I hear those noises, I hear those sounds, I see crazy droids wandering around, I see kind of beating up land speeders in the background and stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is great. I love it. And it's the same with the Marvel and the same with the Star Wars things. My 7-year-old self would be like in seventh heaven knowing that I'm sitting down every week watching a brand new Star Wars show. I'm like, yes, keep giving them to me. I can't, and I'm loving the fact that you've got the slightly more action-orientated things like The Mandalorian and Boba Fett, the slightly more meandering things like Obi-Wan, but now you've got something that's just really designed for people who were 7 or 8 when they first saw Star Wars and are now in their kind of 40s and 50s and kind of want a little bit more meat to their Star Wars world, and you getting it in Andor.
It's kind of The Mandalorian scratched that itch to a certain extent with the first season, but this is kind of, it's being kind of like, this is how I felt when I watched the original Star Wars trilogy when I was growing up as a kid. This is kind of gone back to that kind of, this is just really great capsule story, and just having this kind of fantastic universe as a setting. And that's the thing, it uses it as a setting, not as a prop. Yeah, which is the big issue with all the other Star Wars media at the moment. It just kind of uses kind of Jedi and Sith and the balance of the Force and all that as props for the storyline, rather than just using it as the environment that it operates in. Yeah,
it's just a really good story that just happens to be set in the Star Wars universe.
It's definitely top 3 series of the year for me.
Yeah, it's great. I'm loving it.
So it's that time of the show where we wrap up what we've been up to since the last issue. So let's start off with Leigh. You've recovered from your bout of common flu, but what have you been up to otherwise?
What have I been up to otherwise? I've been sort of going through a couple of games that I'd started before but hadn't fully finished. So I've been trying to finally 100% Crash 4. So the one that sort of came out a couple of years ago.
That platinum trophy.
It's very, very difficult just because the levels are really long and hard, and it's it just challenges you constantly. But I'm just determined to do it just because I've 100%ed the original Naughty Dog games back in the day, and it's just it feels like I need to do this one too. just for completion's sake. Like all the rest of the games in between don't count. They literally don't. Crash 4 makes sure of that.
You're getting the eyebrow twitch.
Well, because there's a bit in Crash 4 where like a new character says to Crash and Coco, like, so how many times have you beaten this guy, referring to the villain? They're just like, 3 times. Really? It feels like more. No, it's 3. Like they make it very clear that this follows on from the original trilogy, and all the other ones don't count.
Does that not include the remasters? Then I'm assuming.
I think they basically rebooted the series with the remasters because it's those 3 games. So I kind of like that they did that, especially because this one definitely does feel closer to those old Naughty Dog games than anything that came in between.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for a karting game, to be honest. Shouldn't there be an Uncharted karting game by now?
I mean, they need to do an Uncharted. Especially because, like, for a while they had a pattern going where it was like
they had 3 games.
They had 3 Crash Bandicoot games, and then they had Crash Team Racing. You get to PlayStation 2, and it was Jak and Daxter. They had 3 games of those, then Jak X.
Yep.
And then 3 Uncharted games, and then The Last of Us.
Needs to be Uncharted.
Yeah. I'd like to see The Last of Us as a kart game as well, just for the hell of it. Although that has reminded me of there is someone actually making a Bloodborne karting game.
How?
With PS1 visuals as well.
Oh, okay, I like that.
Okay, I can see that.
It's basically the same people who did like the Bloodborne demake. So they basically turned Bloodborne into a PS1 game.
Nice.
And surprisingly, it has not been taken down off the internet. It's still available. It is free, obviously, because they can't legally sell it.
Nintendo's not involved with it. That's
true.
So either Nintendo or Disney, it's going to have a copyright strike straight away.
But yeah, the other game that I've sort of been trying to finish off was Valkyria Chronicles 4. So another 4. But that one's just because like I got probably about 2/3 of the way through it, and then like I think at the time that I was playing through it, like other stuff came out and I got distracted, and I was like, I need to actually finish this game. So I've just been playing through that. It's basically like anime World War II. Turn-based strategy sort of thing, but it's got like first-person shooter mechanics built into it. So it's kind of like instead of like just moving on a grid, you move your troops like it's in a shooter, and you sort of actually aim and stuff like that.
So one of my dream games would be to take Valkyria Chronicles, but put it in Advance Wars. So I think that would be the perfect combo between the two.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, God knows what's happening with that remake.
Yeah.
As long as Russia's still in Ukraine, that's not coming out.
We talked about having conflict, but you went to MCM Birmingham.
Yes, I did.
So on a solo mission this time.
Yes.
So how was it?
It was fun. It was mostly just like I'm gonna wander around, see what's going on, and just try and be sociable and have a good time. I did taiko drumming. So that was fun because they had like the Pop Asia stage, which is mostly just people just like lip syncing to anime themes. But they had like a full taiko demonstration, and they had like 12 or so drums like around.
So it wasn't the plastic drums that came.
No, it wasn't the Namco ones. It was the real thing. But yeah, it was basically they had all these drums sort of laid out, and they're like, anyone who wants to get involved, come up to the drum, and I'll teach you how to taiko drum. And you had this big group taiko drumming session, and that was a lot of fun.
So now if we ever get to like MGM Studios now, we just have Leigh doing taiko drumming kind of opening credits.
That sounds good.
And yeah, like I also saw the Oxventure live show as well, which is a D&D show which originally came from the Outside Xbox YouTube channel, and they're doing a lot of stuff with the D&D stuff now because of how popular it's become. And made a Q friend, so that was fun. You're the kind of person where you're like, you know, you have a great time and you have a great conversation, and then you never see them again.
They are kind of the best friends you can have, because it's kind of you have that joint passion and real fun, and it's the only time you will do it is at kind of conventions, things like that, where you'll find those people, and it's kind of I think you're really good friends, and maybe I'll see you at the next MCM, possibly the next time.
Because it's one of those things where, like, you know, you're standing in line for a D&D show. Everyone else who's getting into that line is also interested in D&D and all this sort of stuff. And
you don't have to roll for initiative because you already know.
And it's also just like, you know, we're chatting about Pokemon as well, because like they bought Pokemon cards for someone, and
I think there's a Pokemon Go special event on where there's
I believe so. Yeah,
freebies as well.
I haven't touched that game in ages, so I didn't see. But yeah, and then also did all my Christmas shopping there, because most people I know would appreciate stuff from MCM. So
cool, awesome. Anything else? Or well, you did do a YouTube video on Leigh's wonderful channel, BobThePetFerret. Go check it out. Which was Fatal Frame, because I've never touched that series because I've not been a PlayStation guy for my entire life, and I know there's some on the Wii as well.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, I really enjoyed that from a kind of, I've never played these games, so this is kind of a great introduction and a good. Why is this such a great series at the same time?
Yeah, that was my Halloween video. It's sort of one of the ideas I've had floating around for a while, but it's just like, well, I can't really record any of the old games because my setup is terrible for the PS2, because everything just ends up looking like this big on screen. So I ended up like just having to figure out emulators and stuff. I was like, I'm going to get this done through emulation. And I was like, while I'm doing this, if I'm messing with emulators, I should get Fatal Frame 4 and emulate that, because there's no other way to play this, and I'll never play this officially. And then they announced the remaster, and I was like, oh, okay.
Perfect timing for a relaunch. Yeah. That's really cool. Well, check it out. I'll put the link in the description. Keith, how about yourself? What have you been up to?
Not a great deal. I'm trying to think. I've been reading plenty of comics, catching up. A lot of stuff happening in the comics world, which is fine. All good.
Particular highlights?
I'm trying to think. I just finished Twig, which was kind of cool, from Image. That was a great book, kind of very much in the kind of vein of Jim Henson and Dark Crystal. 4 or 5 issues. I can't remember how many it was. That was really good. I hope that comes back for another season. There was the Godzilla versus Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which I'm a few months behind. I think I'm finally reading that. Freddie Williams II.
What was the longest hashtag that you had?
Oh, that's the new Godzilla series, which is Godzilla Monsters and Protectors, All Hail the King, which is the new season, which is good because it's like an all ages title.
Yeah.
So the illustration style is a bit more open, and it's much more aimed at kind of readers of all ages, which is kind of cool, and that's quite fun.
Yeah. But going back to the Godzilla Power Rangers we met.
That's good.
A few years ago.
Yeah, when he was doing
Ice.
When he did Ice, he'd been doing some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stuff. I think he did a Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover. But he did a brilliant job with the Power Rangers and Godzilla. It looked amazing. Story was just bobbins as usual in terms of how these characters come together. There's some kind of portal and somebody falls through something, and then there's a fight. Yeah, and it's like, oh, this is happening, and like Godzilla attacks the Zords because they're big monsters, and then they all attack each other, and then Rita Repulsa gets in the way, and it's all chaos. But it was good fun. It was a good romp over 5 issues. I quite enjoyed that.
But you mentioned like the Batman Turtles one. Is that the one with that infamous panel of like Raphael standing there with Batman saying that this is where my parents died?
I think that might be that one. There's been a few over recent years. There's been quite.
Like I know that the Cowabunga line isn't from the actual comic, but
there's been quite a few, which is quite good.
Did you think they'd have done a Daredevil TMNT crossover by now, considering that's?
Yeah, it's weird. I think it's because and it's weird because IDW, who are the people who have got the rights at the moment for Turtles, do a lot of Marvel reprints.
Yeah,
but then they do a lot of crossovers with DC stuff. Yeah. And I'm
sure they did like Transformers and GI Joe back in the day, and they did a lot of those kind of comics.
Yeah, because they've done the Star Trek crossovers. Yeah, in the IDW universe as well. And Planet of the Apes. If we go down the world, Marvel think they've got it in the Multiverse of Madness. That's nothing compared to the chaos that goes on in the IDW universe in terms of crossover characters. But I kind of like those. They're just stupid, fun comics that you get 5 or 6 issues or whatever it is. There was one I loved a few years back, which was Star Trek and Transformers, where they had an Enterprise that was a Transformer, and it was beautiful to look at, and it was Bobbin's story as usual.
Is this just like they have like 2 hats with like just geek properties? Who's
going to meet who?
Terminator. Care Bears.
But that was I would buy the heck out of a Terminator versus Care Bears comic. I tell you what, that would be what's it? Because I don't know if IDW own the license at the moment, because I'm sure they've got the license to My Little Pony, and I'm sure My Little Pony's had a crossover with somebody weird at some point.
My Little Pony versus Aliens.
I think it's been a little weird, but now the Aliens and Predator have gone to Marvel again.
Yeah,
which is kind of funny. And there's a Predator series out at the moment, which is drawn by a guy called Kev Walker, who's a British artist whose work I really liked. He did a lot of good stuff. But outside of comics, the big thing that I wanted to talk about this week was a game which I'd liked the trailer for, and it came out this week, and I've managed to download it and start playing it, which is called Somerville, which is a game from the people who brought us Inside and Limbo.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I've played probably about 80% of it so far. I've got a bit more to do, and it's a glorious. It's short, but it's glorious because basically there's no dialogue. It's all, as we're talking about Andor being all about mood. This is all about mood. Yeah. And in a break from tradition, instead of going left to right, you mostly go right to left.
So backwards. So everybody's like, it's backwards.
So it's a shock to the system for any gamers who are used to the inside or limbo thing. But no, it's really good, and it reminds me a lot of a video game that I'd played when I was a kid, which most people may or may not have heard of, called Another World. Mm-hmm. So the kind of art style and the idea of this kind of like strange alien encounter happens, which isn't, none of it's explained to you at the moment. You just go through this world. You have a dog who doesn't really do anything other than being a dog.
Well, I mean, if it's like, because it is from like the developers of Inside and Limbo, that never explained anything. So I don't think you're going to get an explanation if this is anything like those. And
the puzzles are quite interesting. The kind of the basic mechanic of it is, as you go through the game, you are given a set of powers that enable you to disassemble or reassemble. Reassemble is not the right word, but it's you freeze things. So you can kind of melt and freeze. So the puzzle mechanics are based around doing some things with that and pulling levers and charging things up, and it's a really nice. You just kind of play it.
Your sort of typical cinematic platformer type stuff.
So I'm really enjoying that, because you just kind of stuff is just happening and you're kind of there, and the music's really nice, and the kind of the graphics and the art style are really good as well.
I've been meaning to check that out, but obviously it's just come out, so I'm like,
I think if you're on Xbox, it's great because it's on Game Pass, so you can get your fill. I think probably if you're not an idiot, and some of the puzzles you go after half an hour, you go, oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. It might take you like 3 or 4 hours to play.
Yeah,
it takes me a little bit longer, because sometimes I'm just kind of going, what am I supposed to do here? And then you kind of go, you kind of, because you forget.
Mechanic that like, just showed you 10 minutes ago.
It's like, that. So I mean, this.
That whole genre is built on just that kind of feeling.
It's some of those things where
you
even
go back to, like you said, Another World.
Yeah, you just sit there for like 20 minutes and you go, what am I missing?
Now you can go into Wikipedia and find like...
Yeah,
but sometimes you just sit there and you go, what am I missing? And you kind of go, I just, like, this has got to be right here in front of me. And then you kind of just go, oh yeah. And you feel like such an idiot, because you just go, I should have saw that as soon as I walked into this room. Why did I not see it? It's like, God damn it. But yeah, I'm really enjoying that, so that's quite good. So I think I've got a couple of chapters left to finish off the story, which I'm assuming will not be resolved in any meaningful way, and I'll be just left thinking, okay, what's going to happen? But that's quite cool.
What was that indie game that came out quite a while ago, where it's kind of until the very end you realised you were playing the game in reverse? It's going to annoy me. Got really weird chibi characters in it. It was kind of before Limbo. It was the big one before Limbo.
Is it Braid that you're thinking of?
Yes. Braid, yeah. Kind of sounds very similar-ish to that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's well worth your time if you've got a few hours to kill, and you can pick it up for either free on Game Pass or cheap on. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's on other systems. I assume it'll be on Steam and PlayStation or whatever it is, but yeah, it's definitely worth a go.
I think it's on. I think it is on Steam, but I think that's all it's on at the moment.
Okay.
PC and Xbox.
But yeah, it's definitely worth a play if you like moody, narrative-driven puzzle games. So yeah, check it out. It's Somerville.
Yeah. All right, sure.
So what about you, Ryan?
So went to the cinema, watched the latest Marvel film. I'm not going to really go too much in because you haven't watched it. I don't want to spoil it, and Leigh's going to fall asleep if we talk about it too much.
Please, hands over his ears.
Oh no!
Wakanda Forever, 30th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Jesus.
So Marvel fatigue is probably starting to kick in for most of the viewing audience by now. But kind of a C+ for me.
Okay.
Acting great, plot terrible. So definitely deals with the whole Chadwick Boseman situation. Angela Bassett is just an acting force, and just any moment she's on the screen, it's her screen. She's great in it. Letitia Wright's great as an actress. Winston Duke, amazing. Every minute he's on screen, he's amazing as always. So some really strong acting. Lupita Nyong'o's great. Tenoch Huerta, what a way to be introduced into kind of acting. He does a really good role with Namor. So you think Namor feels like one of the most stupid characters ever in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with his kind of flappy ankles. Don't give me that face, Keith. You know it's bad. He's got flappy ankles which make him fly. But it's kind of the introduction of him, and he talks about how he's a mutant.
Okay, so that's cool.
Quite a bit of that kicking off. But acting's great. The plot is pretty threadbare, and it's too long by at least half an hour. But if you're a Marvel fan and you're that invested into it, you're going to watch it regardless anyway, aren't you? So probably not going to put too much into it, but yeah, do that. The other thing I've been doing is on the Steam Deck. I've been finding some games which are sensible for the Steam Deck. First one was Resident Evil 2, so midway into that. Remake's really good. So the remaster, not the original. Sorry. Really enjoying it. Really like it. It's just a great game to pick up and play for half an hour and then turn it off when you get too scared and it gets too late at night. But the other game I've been playing is a game called Vampire Survivors.
Mm-hmm.
Have you picked this one up, Leigh?
No, I will be honest. I've seen so many people raving about it, but I take one look at it and I'm just like, I'm not touching that. I hate how it looks, and it just puts me off.
So it's a roguelike.
That also puts me off.
Came out this back end of December last year. Developed by and published by a single person, a guy called Ponkel, or Luca Galante, as he's known. It's an Italian developer. But it's kind of waves and waves of monsters, and it's kind of it's a bit like a very 8-bitty version of Hades. Mm-hmm. So kind of you'll get power-ups throughout the game, and you can upgrade your character, and you know what you're doing. And the more and more times you play, the better and better you get. But it's kind of
the vampires.
I mentioned vampires, but it's kind of like it's just really good fun. It's kind of one of those games where you'll play for like 6 minutes and then die, and you're like, oh, I need to play again. And it's just really good fun. The art is very much player's choice. Mm-hmm. So if you grew up with NES 8-bit era graphics, and that's kind of the feel you want, you'll quite enjoy it. It feels very Castlevania, NES era, those kind of graphics onto it. No vampires in the game, by the way, which is quite amusing. It's the name of. But it's, just kind of that kind of... It goes back to that old arcadey Spawn wave kind of, how do I survive, get an upgrade, going again and again and again. I can imagine if there's been an arcade back in the 80s, a lot of quarters would have been funneled into it over the time.
Yeah,
it's a really good fun, really good worth picking up. I think it's only like £4. Mm-hmm. So, and I think it's actually on Game Pass at the minute. So
yes, I think it is.
So if you've not got it on Steam or one of the other varieties of stores,
what was it called again?
Vampire Survivors.
It might be PC only.
Yeah. It's on Xbox One, Series X, and Series S.
I wasn't sure.
I'm just going to check it out.
And it's on Mac OS as well, Keith, if you want to play it on the Mac.
Well,
yeah,
I probably won't. But
I think I'm probably just thinking of like when it was in early access, and I'm still just thinking of it being in.
So basically, it took him about a year to develop, and he spent about $1,000 on arts, assets, and music. But it's just if you like roguelikes, which some people don't, and if you like that 8-bit art style, which again some people don't, it's just really good and fun to pick up and play. And because it's the price of a coffee, and you'll get more and more hours of enjoyment. It picked up the Golden Joystick Award for Breakthrough.
Yes.
And I think it's on for the Game Awards Best Indie Debut.
I can't remember. Like, I have been looking through all this stuff because of my end of year list that's coming, but I don't remember. I think it probably is on at least one of the indie things.
Just looking at it, it reminds me of things like Gauntlet and stuff.
Yeah, it's a roguelike basically.
Yeah, I might have a look at that.
Yeah, it's kind of not really, but Golden Axe style. It's kind of like just get waves and waves of enemies. That kind of evokes that kind of feel and that nostalgia. Yeah. 86 out of 100 on Metacritic.
Mm-hmm. It's not bad.
So if it's your cup of tea, I really recommend it. Have a play. Thank you for joining us this week on Geeky Brummie. Why do I always say this week? It's this issue.
This time.
This time.
No,
next week. Keith, where can we find you online?
You can find me online, still on Twitter, at hardluck_hotel. But you will also find me now on Hive, at hardluckhotel, no underscore. Yay! And the same, but with at mastodon.social on Mastodon. No co-host yet. Instagram, Hardluck Hotel. Tumblr. I think my Tumblr might be scot-free, but I can't remember. I haven't been to Tumblr for donkeys.
You got your MySpace page?
MySpace page. I never had a MySpace page.
You never had a MySpace
page?
What would have been your MySpace page song?
What era are we in here?
So this would have been early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
So
early
after
2000s.
the Friends Reunited wave before Facebook.
Well, it might have been something. It might have been maybe a Chop Suey by System of a Down.
Possibly. A really low bitty, terrible version of it.
Yeah. Or Smooth Criminal by Alien Ant Farm.
Nice.
So yeah.
Good things. Leigh, how about yourself? Where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube at BobThePetFerret, which, as we've discussed before, my most recent video is on Fatal Frame. And I have a video coming up which is going to be about video game censorship. And obviously my end of year thing is going to be right before Christmas as well. And you can find me still on Twitter, BobThePetFerret for channel updates, and the Cheap Ferret for just general stuff, on Hive at BobThePetFerret as well, which I've decided I'm going to keep it consolidated to one thing. But I'm not going to indicate any other platforms because I'm not using Mastodon, and I've already requested my co-host be deleted. So but yeah, that's where you can find me predominantly.
Awesome. Thank you. And what would have been your pick for your MySpace page?
At the time, it probably would have been one of the mopiest thing that talked about the sadness in my soul at the time.
Like Evanescence, My Immortal.
Oh, it wasn't Evanescence. It was probably worse than that. Like, it would probably have been Linkin Park, I imagine.
In the end,
something like that, or worse. Like, I'm thinking of, like, at the time I was into a lot of like mopey British indie rock bands because they were all really sad, and that's kind of and so that at least with something like Evanescence, there's at least something to it.
Yeah.
Whereas that at the time,
not
like
Nickelback.
No.
How you remind me. You can find me for now at Ryan Parish on Twitter. We are at, so otherwise Geeky Brummie wise, still on Twitter at the minute. Geeky Goings On, which is our roundup of what's coming up in the area, events, etc. Geeky stuff that takes your interest. Still on Twitter for now. We are on Facebook at Geeky Brummie. We are on Instagram at Geeky Brummie, geekybrummie.com. Just come and see our shiny new website. It loads much quicker than the old one. And trying to think where else. So we are on Mastodon at Geeky Brummie. I think it's Geeky Brummie at mastodon.world. So I think it's that server. I'll put a link somewhere. And soon to be on Hive as well, as I set up the account as we record the show. But yeah, don't forget Keith's Comics Roundup, Leigh's Gaming Roundup. Matt, who's not here, you can find on Twitter for now at Mr. Matt Level, or on Instagram at matchstick_Matt. He does his Esports Roundup, and the Tech Roundup will be resuming in the new year. I'm probably not worth me starting it off for a couple of weeks. But don't forget to like, subscribe, share. We're on YouTube, as you're probably aware if you're watching this, or on your podcasting streaming service of choice. You can find us on CastOS, is our main home for our podcast, but on the streaming service of your choice. And yeah, we'll see you next time. But for now, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.